Have you ever wanted to play a high-stakes competitive MOBA as a literal bottle-sucking child? Because you could actually do that in MXM. Today we are going to be talking about the smol child. Arami is this funny little alien superhero baby person who's good at breakdancing. Now Arami's story lore actually starts with this asshole. Basically, when he showed up, Arami was just hiding on his ship for some reason. And that's as far as it goes, that's all it says. Arami is a summoner who sells escapes and CC, and also hits pretty darn hard if you're not paying attention. Her passive is the redundancy of ability resources, which gives her mana when attacking an enemy who is recently hit by one of her skills. So you spend mana to use an ability, then basic attack that enemy to get it back, making her have mana totally pointless and to just get it back. Arami's basic attack is just her midget fingers. It lets her shoot these little orbs with slight homing and a small AoE. They also create a PNG of this little fucker on impact, and no one knows who that is, but you will see him every time you attack. Arami's survival skill makes a decoy at her location, then she turns invisible, offering a pretty nice little escape method and bamboozling your enemies because it's funny. Arami's main skills work on a glyph recast system. Basically, on cast you would put a glyph. Then the actual skill would activate on recast, available about half a second from casting it. Now you might say, but Lego, other abilities in the game don't do that. Why does Arami have a significant lag time between casting an ability and the ability actually working? Allow me to explain.
No.
That is why. That bullshit right there is why. Swirly Snare puts a swirl on the ground that when activated summons the dreaded grass. Enemies become enticed by this and get snared for a considerable amount of time. It was definitely one of my more favorite skills since snaring people in an area as wide as a lane for like 4 months can be pretty good. Fruity Pebbles summons the Pebbles that float around ominously for a bit, before latching onto someone and sucking the will to live out of them, applying a slow and dealing light damage. It is pretty good for like outside of Rosark, since channeling the door gets cancelled if you take damage, and these things will follow you to the ends of the earth if you ever get near them. The Old Switcheroo. This puts down a glyph that you can swap places with, then swap places with again. This lets you be a very tricksy little person, and enrage the kill-hungry Ritlock one trick who's likely chasing you. A giant fist. This one does exactly what you think.
There comes a giant fist!
It summons the fist from the ground that does fat damage and knocks up enemy. And it combos really well with other hard CC skills in the game, since actually locking them in place to hit them with it is gonna be pretty important. Arumbi's ult summons her golem Fernando. No, I made that up. That's not his real name. His real name is fucking Rocky. You summon him from the ground, dealing damage and knocking up enemies similar to Giant Fist. However, this time that fist is attached to a sentient pile of rocks that will float around and enact your will for a little while. The golem itself is kinda but the initial knockup and damage is pretty darn good, and basically just acts as an additional super hard CC. For augments, projectile speed has its merits, but your basic attack isn't the fastest thing ever to begin with, and you're going to be doing most of your damage to targets you can't move anyway, so it's probably better to just go for flat damage. For nodes, you can bring 4 skill power, 1 flat AD, and either stamina or tag out healing. You can also replace skill power with any amount of cooldown reduction, if you want to be the funniest and most popular guy around. Everyone will love you casting teleports and giant fuck-off fists every 4.5 fucking seconds. You bring swirls and giant fists, knock up, snare, death, or go for funny mobility build, taking Pebbles and Switcheroo, and just be impossible to fucking find. Now you too know how to play the best little person MXM had to offer, and can confidently pick her the next time you boot up everyone's favorite child-based beat-em-up, Girls Frontline. Everyone's favorite child-based beat-em-up, MXM. I'll see you when we die.